Well, hello, welcome to this short video about the Companion Midi Button Presser app that I wrote for London Church. What it does is help you to automate use of your production equipment from within, in our case, Logos Proclaim. Proclaim is our lyric projection software. But as well as projecting things onto the screens, it can send what it calls lighting scene changes, and what we're using is this app I've written to automate pressing buttons in Bitfocus Companion. Bitfocus Companion, it will be familiar to many of you. It's a great software for controlling and automating AV production equipment, a whole range of different things. We can't go into any of those panoply of things in this video. We are using it to automate control of our 8M video switchers, to automate recording of the service, to actually control Proclaim, and a few other things. And it does that using those little Elgato Stream Deck button panels, which are really handy. But we also want to be able to actually automate it, so send a signal from Proclaim into Companion and not even have to have somebody press the button in front of them. Just do things automatically. When we reach this point in the service, press this button, which will do whatever we've configured Companion to do. Let's start by setting up a really simple button in Companion that we'll be able to test pressing. So this is our main church Companion setup, but we'll go over to page 11, which is currently blank, and we'll pick a button and we'll call it Press Me. We'll add a step, so it has two steps, like pressed and unpressed. We'll add a feedback to change its colour, so it'll go green when it's on step 2, and it'll be black when it's on step 1. So in the Companion emulator, this looks like a Stream Deck, but it's on my screen. Here's the button we just set up. If I click it, it's turned green. If I click it again, it's turned black again. I can click it as many times as I like. And what we want to do is automate the clicking, the pressing of this button in Companion. So there it is. We need some software to install. I've downloaded the two things I need, which are Loop Midi and my Companion Midi Button Presser app. So Loop Midi creates a virtual MIDI loopback port, so we can tell Proclaim, send MIDI notes out of this port, and it loops back inside the computer and goes into the Companion Midi Button Presser app. But we have to install that first, so let's do that. You won't see the user access control window in a moment, but I will. I need to agree to the license terms, hit install, and we're installing Loop Midi. Now I've said okay, yep, setup was successful. Launch, and Loop Midi is going to hide itself away in my notification area. And if I double click it there, up pops its window. And I can actually create as many Loop Midi ports as I like. I just need one. If you're doing other MIDI stuff as well, if you're doing other MIDI automations, you may need multiple MIDI ports and you may need to think about what you call them. But I'm just going to call it Loop Midi port, the default name, and hit the plus, and there it is. It's running. I can close that window and never have to think about it again. Next thing I'm going to do is install my Companion Midi Button Presser app. Double click that, and there's actually nothing to configure. Just sit here for a few moments while it runs the installer. There it goes. And now it's installed, its settings window comes up automatically. And I need to tell this a few things. I need to tell it where Companion is running. I need to tell it where to listen for MIDI notes. And there's a few other things as well that we'll come to. Where am I running Companion? I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi in the next room, but if you're running Companion on the same computer where you're running Proclaim, all these bits of software need to be installed on the computer you're going to run Proclaim on. If Companion's on the same computer, I can just leave this as 127.0.0.1. In my case, I know it's running on 192.168.68.53. That's the IP address I've assigned to my Raspberry Pi. I would recommend assigning a DHCP reservation. Look up how to do that in your router. Or you can put in the host name. I could have put in companiondev.local here. But I would recommend using a static IP address. I've not changed the Companion port number, so we'll leave that as 8000. I select the MIDI port we just created. We'll come back to the page offset, and on the church computer, I just want to run it automatically when I log in. I don't want to have to think about it ever again. So we'll hit save, and this program too has hidden itself away in the notification area. Look, there it is. I can right click and I can get back to the settings. There's not much there, but that's where it is. So what have we done? We've set up a button in Companion that we want to press. We've installed the software. We have now got to go into Proclaim and tell it how to press that button. So let me go into Proclaim. Just take a couple of moments, and here is the service that we're having for Easter Sunday. How do we set this up? Well, let's start by adding an item into the service. We'll just add a content item. Just adding a slide there. And what we want to do is when we reach this slide in the service, then we're going to press that button in Companion. 2 steps to configure that. First, we'll go to Settings, Lighting MIDI, and here we can set up our lighting scenes. And then we'll link it to that slide. I've got a whole bunch of lighting scenes configured already. There's absolutely loads of them. We'll add a new one. Call it Test Companion Midi Button Presser. Give it a name that describes what the button does that you're going to press. We're going to add control MIDI. We're using the loop MIDI port, the port we created earlier, and we're going to add a note. So note on, and then we'll have to configure the note velocity and channel. So what are they? Let's switch back into Companion. So here's the button that we're looking at. This is the one we want to press. It's button 1113. So that's page 11, row 1, the rows are numbered from 0, column 3, the columns are also numbered from 0. So page 11, row 1, column 3. 1113. In Proclaim, we're going to use the channel is going to be 11. So the channel is the page number. The note is the row, and the velocity is the column. And that's it. We can press the preview button, but first of all, let's just go to the emulator. So at the moment, it's black. Hit preview. Go back and it's green. We'll hit preview again, go back and it's gone black. So each time we hit that preview link in Proclaim, it pressed that button in Companion. So that's our scene. We can save it, we can go out of the settings, and on this slide that we added, we can go over to Signals, So this is where we link the slide to the particular lighting scene we just set up. Add signal, lighting, test Companion Midi Button Presser. And that's all there is to it. That's all set up now. So let's actually go on air, and I'll be back in a moment when I've switched the recording over to record my other screen, which is where Proclaim's going to show up. Okay, so now we're looking at the other screen. This is the output that'll go on a projector, but I've also just dragged over the Companion emulator so you can see what's going on there. And in Proclaim, I'm going to move through those slides. Through the opening greeting, the Easter acclamation, and then we hit our new slide, and when I got there, it pressed that button in Companion, and I can carry on through the service. If I go back to that slide again, it'll press it another time, and it pressed the button again. And that's about it. So that's the details really of how to set this up. There was one thing that I didn't cover, which was this setting for page offset. So in MIDI, you've got 16 channels, which means that in Companion Midi Button Presser, you can access 16 pages. But which 16? It might be that you have loads of pages set up in Companion. These days, you can add as many pages as you like in Companion. So with this program, there is an assumption that all the pages you want to be pressing via MIDI will fit within a range of 16 pages, but they don't have to be pages 1 to 16. So I was pressing buttons on page 11 by sending channel 11, but equally, if I set my page offset to 10, then I can send notes on channel 1 and it'll press buttons on page 11, because channel 1 plus the offset of 10 translates to page 11. So I have set it up now so that I can press via MIDI buttons on pages 11 to 26, and I can set this offset to whatever I like. There are other ways of doing this. You can do the same thing using the Tech Ministry MIDI relay. It's a little bit more involved to set that up. You can do this using Companion's generic MIDI module. That also works, though I had some difficulties when I wanted to send multiple notes at basically the same time. I was getting things dropped. There are other ways of doing this. This is designed to be really simple to set up, and the mapping is really simple. You just send the page number, the row and the column, and it presses it. And for many of us, that is quite enough, and we don't need a more complex mapping. But that is an assumption. And thank you to Dan, who wrote the Companion module for ProPresenter, who came up with this really simple mapping. A lot of the code in this is shamelessly copied from that module for ProPresenter. And thank you, Dan, for that idea. That's brilliant. But I hope this will be useful to people. At the moment, it's only on Windows. I don't have a Mac. Maybe I'll get one. Maybe we'll be able to build this for Mac as well. It ought to work on Mac. But at the moment, it's just on Windows. There's bound to be bugs. Report them. There are links in the description to where to get Loop MIDI and Companion Midi Button Presser. Hope you find it useful. Do feedback. Thanks very much.